Good morning and welcome to another episode of Legislative Matters Now with M&M. I'm Morgan Spicer, Special Projects Coordinator here at the ARC of the Mid-Ohio Valley. Now, before we begin today's show, let's explain the purpose of our show, which is to educate all self-advocates, including Melissa and I, on the important topic of legislative advocacy. Now, we do this every month by having a guest each month talk about various pieces of legislation. Now, we also, on many programs, depending on the topic and time allowed, do a segment called Advocate in Action, where we talk to a self-advocate who is using their self-advocacy skills in a positive light to not only influence their lives, but the lives of others around them. Now, our guests will be joining us in just a few moments, but first, let's get to this month's Who You Gonna Call.
You want to know more about what it's like to be a new member of the West Virginia House of Delegates. So who are you going to call? Your city council member, a state House of Delegates member or state senator, your U.S. senator or U.S. Congress member, or a state agency that specializes in what you're looking for. Morgan, what do you think?
I think the answer is B.
Final answer?
Final answer.
Your state House of Delegates member. The West Virginia House of Delegates is the lower house of the West Virginia legislature. Only 3 states, Maryland, Virginia, and West Virginia, refer to their lower house as the House of Delegates. Regular sessions begin with an organizational day on the second Wednesday of January of each year, unless it's the year right after the election year for governor. Then the session starts in February to allow time for the inauguration of the governor. The length of the regular session is limited to 60 calendar days. The governor can call for special sessions. Delegates are elected for terms of 2 years. West Virginia delegate Scot Heckert was elected in November of 2022.
To explain this further, our guest today is West Virginia House of Delegates member Scot Heckert. He is over District 13, which represents Wirt and Wood counties, and he's also the Assistant Majority Whip. Thank you for joining us today.
Thanks for having me. I've been wanting to do this for a while since Doug first contacted me.
Perfect. Well, we got some questions for you. So as a businessman around Wood County for many years, what led you to run for a House of Delegates?
Well, I've wanted to run for several years, and finally the community and my family decided it was time for me to do it, and being contacted, I just put my name in the hat and won.
Now, although this was your first session as an elected official, was this your first trip to Charleston during the legislative session?
No, sir. I've been going down there for 10, 11 years, working on different things for the business, our businesses and other businesses. And it's once you get down, it gets in your blood, and you kind of miss it when you don't go.
How difficult was it to learn what you needed to do to make it to all of your committees and get your work done?
Well, the leadership team in Charleston under Speaker Hanshaw and Eric Householder, Mark Rohrbuck, Vernon Chris, and others put together classes for us a few weeks before session to get to know how things are done. And we went through mock committees, we went through mock sessions, and then we had caucuses that we went to every day in the morning from 8 to 9. And all that prepared us for the day and prepared us for what we had to do ahead of us.
Now, a lot of people think being a delegate is simply a 60-day part-time job. How would you respond to that, having just finished your first session?
Well, no job is just 60 days. If you're going to do the job right, you have to live it every day and do it every day. And I got home on the 11th, and I've been dealing with issues from our area and other areas every day since I got home.
So what went well during the session for you? Did you get all of the bills passed you wanted or supported?
You don't ever get everything done during a session, let alone your first session. I was able to, I introduced 6 bills myself and got 3 of them put into legislation. I sponsored 79 bills and 19 of them got put in legislation. We did around 302 bills, something like 203 from the House and 129 or so through the Senate.
What didn't go so well?
Oh, when you don't get everything that you think you should get done, it wears on you a little bit. But if you take a small bite of the apple at first, you go back next year and get another bite.
It's a great encouragement. If you don't get the results you want at first, just to keep fighting.
Yeah, you have to fight for what you want and for what's right for the state and for the county.
We encourage the people we serve who have disabilities to get to know their lawmakers and develop relationships. So when it comes to discussion, they aren't strangers coming into your office and visiting or calling you on the phone. What would you say to those people to help them develop those relationships? Do you prefer calls or emails or letters sent through traditional mail?
Well, I'm available to come to meet a group of people at any time that time allows. Emails are good. Letters are always good. My phone's never turned off, and when I'm in Charleston or home, my door is always open.
Are stories important to get?
Well, the more information when you're talking to a legislature or writing a legislator, whether it be a delegate or senator, the more information you can give him or her about why that this is important to the community or to a cause or to a particular class, it's easier for us to figure out how to write a bill to help that out.
And we talked about that on an earlier session, is it's good for people to do that and to meet their legislators because it puts a name to a face. So they know what they can get familiar with you, and they know that you've got their back and you're supporting them.
Absolutely. And during the 60-day session, every day there's times if you call, we can set up appointments, or if you're just down there attending one of the events during the day in the rotunda, you can stop by our office, stop by our desk, or have one of the people there, the sergeant of arms there at the rotunda and around the house to get a hold of us, and we can come and meet you then.
How do you decide on what bills to sponsor and what bills not to sponsor?
Well, it's all with community involvement and state involvement. People that call, one person calls about one particular issue, it's probably not a pressing issue. 100 people call about an issue, then it is an issue in the community or in the state. For instance, the forensic homes that was being proposed to be put here in Wood County, we got the call about it, and we all acted. Wood County worked as a team. The delegation and the senators all worked together along with the mayors, and the police chiefs, and other people in the community to try to put a stop to it, and we was able to stop it and put it on hold, and now it is stopped permanently. And as it was in the paper and as the town hall meeting that we had on the issue, even though we had it stopped, was very good for the people to come and listen and express their concerns, their opinions, and we got to listen to a lot of people, their personal experiences and what was going on, and was able to help them. And now we are guaranteed from the DHHR that the home up there will be used for something other than a forensic home.
And you encourage our self-advocates to attend those meetings and town halls and public sessions so they can be informed.
Well, it's always good to put a face with a name and a name with an issue. And when we do call public forum, it is so the community can come and talk to us face to face on a different setting than at the Capitol, because at the Capitol, time is limited because we go on the floor at 11 and we're in caucus from 8 to 9, so we have a window of opportunity, and in the afternoon we have committees. So if there is a town hall, I encourage everyone to come out, ask your question. There are no dumb questions. And let us hear what the concerns are so we know what to work on.
Yep. That's the best way to do it. If self-advocates come and tell you about what's going on, you guys know how to better utilize and focus your time on and energy.
Yes, and they can always send emails ahead of time with questions. You can go to the West Virginia Legislature website and look up look at the House side, go down and pick all of our information for every delegate in the state is there listed.
Is there anything else you'd like to add?
Well, here in Parkersburg and Wood County, all of the delegates are working together to fix the problems, whether it's your district, our district, or somebody else's district. I encourage you to go to the town hall meetings and public forums so we can get face-to-face with you and put a name to you and to an issue. And don't be afraid to ask questions. There are no dumb questions.
Perfect. We've been talking to West Virginia House of Delegate member Scot Heckert. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you so much, Scot, for joining us today. Now, don't forget, if you have an important piece of legislation you want discussed on a future episode or want to be an advocate in action, please don't hesitate to reach out to us. You can call the ARC at 304-422-3151, or you can email us directly. My email is morgan.spicer@thearcmov.org, and Melissa can be reached at melissa.southall@peoplefirstwv.org. We would love to hear from you. Coming up is our Advocate in Action segment. Now, this month we got the chance to speak to Jerry Boyco, who is the Executive Director for the West Virginia Statewide Independent Living Council, and he's also a self-advocate. Thanks so much for joining us today, Jerry, and welcome to the show.
Well, thank you. I appreciate the opportunity to be on today.
All right, not a problem. Glad to have you on here. Let's go ahead and get started. So why don't you tell us about yourself and what your current job entails?
Well, of course, my name is Jerry Boyco. I'm the Executive Director of the West Virginia Statewide Independent Living Council. I began in October, so this position is new to me. Personally, I was injured in 1986. Diving accident, dove in, hit my head on the bottom of a swimming pool, and injured my neck, C4, 5, and 6. So it's been about 36 years now that I've been injured and advocating for myself. And I've actually been here at the SILC for about 9 years now. I started out as the program assistant and recently took the executive director position.
Now, how long have you worked for the West Virginia Statewide Independent Living Council, and how would you describe what the organization does?
So I started in 2014 as the program assistant, and just recently in October became the executive director. And our main purpose here is to create the SPIL, which is the State Plan for Independent Living in West Virginia. So what we do is we coordinate with the Centers for Independent Living and the West Virginia Division of Rehabilitation Services and come up with a 3-year plan that determines how independent living funds are spent in West Virginia. The centers actually do the work. They're the boots on the ground that take that plan and put it into action. So we also help educate legislators on disability issues. But like I said, our main focus is to create that plan, the state plan for independent living.
Now, what are the different kinds of advocacy that you are involved with?
I would say the three most important is education, housing, and transportation. And we do, like to go down to the Capitol during the session and let the legislators know, what the issues are, what's happening in the disability community, and so they know, so they're aware, and they're educated on the issues and can pass laws that help resolve those issues. Housing and transportation, those are some of the top issues of the day in the disability community. Accessible housing, accessible transportation is a huge problem. Those are my passions. I have some plans and some ideas that I've been trying to share with everyone as far as housing and transportation goes. And I'm really passionate about that and would love to be able to solve, at least some of those problems. So if I could, I'd like to share some of those ideas. As far as housing goes, I have an idea of helping one person at a time. And the SILC, like I said, the centers are the boots on the ground. They do direct services, and and help individually on a one-on-one basis. We, on the other hand, cannot do direct services, but there's nothing to stop us from creating the infrastructure for other organizations like the centers to provide those services. So the idea that I have is that we purchase houses or duplexes or whatever the case may be, make them accessible so anybody can live there, and then we rely on other organizations to provide the services and get those people in need in those housing units. So that's one thing that I would love to see happen, and that I believe that the SILT can do. On the transportation side, I've been kind of spreading this out. This is kind of a new idea. I actually was at a meeting with the West Virginia Department of Transportation a couple of days ago and shared this with them that, we have a huge rural population. And I would love to see our current infrastructure be used to be able to provide transportation to those people in the rural areas. So what I propose is that we use our current park and rides that are all over the interstate to be used as like transportation hubs. And we have, accessible transportation existing in those park and rides available. And, we provide transportation in the rural areas using those park and rides as a point, a main point of where people can either come to that location and get transportation, or we can, they can make a phone call and whoever is at that station can go out into that area and pick them up and take them where they need to go. And if it's a long, transport, they can be transported from one park and ride to the other park and ride until they get to where they need to be. So I don't know if it's ever been thought of before, but I think it's a great opportunity for the state to use their current infrastructure to be able to provide transportation in those rural areas.
And I think that is a great idea. I would love that. That's a brilliant idea.
Thank you.
You're very welcome. So what would you say has been your most successful advocacy efforts?
Well, the first thing that comes to mind as far as what the SILC has done would be the West Virginia Disability History Essay Contest. And that began with a youth disability caucus that was held by the SILC many years ago. And it was a group of young people with disabilities that felt that disability history was so important that they took their ideas to the state legislature and was able to get a bill passed that created West Virginia Disability History Week. And during that week, it's the third week of October, the public schools are required to provide some type of disability history education in the schools. And that was all done by youth in the state. And now we have centers for independent living that do go out into the schools and provide some education and, give a little history lesson on the disability community.
Now, things don't always work out the way you want. Legislation doesn't pass or something doesn't go your way. How do you keep going?
Well, in that case, you've learned how not to do something, right? So in that process, hopefully you've learned what else you should be doing or new ways to do things. So, and the only way to learn is really to make mistakes or find out how not to do it, right? So if something doesn't go your way or doesn't go the way you expected it to, you take those lessons learned through that process and you do a better job next time, or you do it differently and try to find a new way to make things happen. I'm sure people's heard of the quote by Thomas Edison that he didn't fail 10,000 times. He just found 10,000 ways that the light bulb didn't work. but it took him a lot of tries to make that happen. So, and many people, right before a breakthrough, they give up. So I just say you keep going until you make it happen. You just don't stop.
I think that's really important for people to know, is to always learn from your mistakes. There's lessons behind them, and to never stop fighting for what you believe in. Those are some very big ones.
Exactly. That's how I feel about it, yes.
So what would you say is the biggest barrier that you have faced, and how you have overcome it, or are you working to overcome it?
Well, I would say, again, the housing and transportation problem we have. I think that's the biggest barrier to many people in West Virginia and throughout the country. I think it's huge. I think there may be ways to solve that problem, but we just need to bring many people together. And as I learned at the meeting that I was just telling you about the other day, it's a bigger problem that I even knew about on many different levels. So I kind of explained to you earlier a few of the ideas that I had, and I'm trying to share that with everybody I can, and hopefully the right person will hear me and, jump on board and be able to make that happen. So I hope maybe this program will help get that out, and somebody will be able to say, hey, I know how to make that work. So let's do that. So housing, transportation, I believe, is very, very important, and one of the biggest barriers there are today.
Yeah, I agree. That is still something that we are constantly fighting for, and hopefully that's something in the future that we can get that resolved and get what we need to help advocates out. So
I certainly hope so.
Yes. And now, is there anything else you'd like to add?
Well, I would like to say that here at the West Virginia Silk, we have new, exciting, and really big things happening this year. So I encourage everybody to visit our website and our Facebook page for the very latest that's happening with us. And our website is wvsilc.org. And then our Facebook is facebook.com/WVSILC. So we've got some really exciting stuff happening. Hopefully it's all going to work out, but just I'd love for everybody to check us out and see what's going on with us in the upcoming year.
So, Jerry, on the Friday shows, I have a segment called Opportunities to Serve, where there are some boards and committees at the bottom, like Statewide Independent Living Council. So if someone would want to join that, how would they go about doing it? What does the job entail? Could you tell us a little bit more about that?
Sure. We actually just went through that process, and we have got some new members on the board. Our board, if you serve on our board, you can serve 2 3-year terms. And if you sit out a year, you can reapply to serve again. But you can actually apply anytime, but we look for new members to start serving July 1st of each year when other people term out and have served their full terms. So you can actually apply on our website for the Silk board, and at any time you feel like it. But just know that the terms start in July. So you may apply, if you apply now, it would be next year before we would be looking at new members again. And we also have another board. It's the RIPAS board, the Ron Yost Personal Assistant Services Program, which that program helps people that need caregivers. It reimburses them for the cost of their caregivers. And we are, often looking for board members for that program. And you can also find out more information about that program on our website. And that board, both the Silk board and the RIPAS board, the Silk board requires 51% of the board members to be people with disabilities, and the RIPAS board requires all board members to be people with disabilities. So we're always welcoming new members, and you can apply at any time through our website. and we will keep those applications on file until it, comes time to need those people. And the RIPAS board, it's not as timely as the Silk board, so somebody could resign or drop off the RIPAS board, and we can appoint those at any time throughout the year as needed. But as far as the Silk, it's usually just one time a year, and the term starts in July.
Thank you so much for joining us today.
Well, thank you, guys. I appreciate the opportunity to share a little bit about the Silk, and appreciate you guys inviting me.
Don't forget, if you have an important piece of legislation you want discussed on a future episode or want to be an advocate in action, please don't hesitate to reach out to us. You can call the ARC at 304-422-3151, or you can email us directly. My email is morgan.spicer@thearcmov.org, and Melissa can be reached at melissa.southall@peoplefirstwv.org. We would love to hear from you. But with that, we are out of time for this month's episode. Thanks so much, West Virginia State Delegate Scot Heckert and Jerry Boyco, Executive Director for the West Virginia Statewide Independent Living Council, for joining us on this month's episode. So until next time, thanks for joining us, and remember, advocacy matters, and so do you. See you next time.